I think that this is going to turn out to be a long video. So for those of you who stick with it through the whole thing or who watch it in short bursts or sessions, thank you in advance for doing so. When we look at the cognitive functions in general, or whether we're specifically looking at the cognitive functions of the ISFP or whatever personality type, there is a distinction between the extroverted and introverted functions that is noticeable in that introverted functions are always trying to cut out or cut away and eliminate, and extroverted functions are always trying to add. The extroverted functions are always going out and gathering more of whatever it is that they are concerned with. And the introverted functions are always trying to cut out and get rid of considerations within whatever it is that they are concerned with. Now, this is going to play itself out in every type because every type has in their primary cognitive function stack 4 functions, of which 2 are extroverted and 2 are introverted. And the cognitive functions will play out a little differently within different types based on whether that function is the first, second, third, or fourth function. So what I want to do today is take a look at the 4 primary cognitive functions of the ISFP, and I want to kind of analyze what it looks like for those functions to either cut away or add. And along the way, I will probably compare it to both the opposite function, like extroverted feeling versus introverted feeling, and also compare it to how the same cognitive function might show up differently if it's in a different spot in a different person's cognitive function stack. So let's just start with introverted feeling, the first function of the ISFP. Introverted feeling, being an introverted function, wants to cut away. It wants to eliminate possibilities. Now, what is it exactly that it is trying to pare down to, or what is it trying to eliminate? Well, with it being a feeling function, it is concerned with feelings, emotions, and values. Introverted feeling in the ISFP causes the ISFP to want to cut away other emotions, cut away other feelings, and cut away other values. So how does introverted feeling do that? Well, introverted feeling goes inward to say, okay, what is my emotional state? What are my feelings on this matter? And what are the things that I value? Now, in order to be able to narrow down within the self on what it is that I feel, what my emotions are doing, and what it is that I value, I have to cut away extroverted or external influences on those areas. Now, what are the primary external influences on emotion and feeling? Well, it's often the emotions and feelings of other human beings. So introverted feeling is going to want to eliminate being affected by the feelings and emotions of others. It wants to decide on its own what it feels and what emotions are flowing through it. And it will not enjoy any attempt to affect its emotions or its feelings by the outside group of humanity. Now, if you contrast that to extroverted feeling wants to explore the emotions of others and sort of absorb them so that everyone is sort of in this same emotional soup where everybody has the same general emotional stance or feeling on something. The ISFP, on the other hand, is going to say, no, if your emotions do not line up with mine, that's okay. But if in any way that starts to affect my emotions, then I have to cut that out. And the same is true of value judgments. If the FI and the ISFP says, I value this over here, then it is only going to want to align with other people who value the same thing. When other people approach the FI with their values, if those values don't line up with the ISFP's FI, the ISFP is not likely to try to absorb or incorporate the values of others, but will rather want to cut those out and push them away. This is not an uncommon reason for why an ISFP will cut a person out of his or her life, because the ISFP is saying, this person is regularly in an emotional state that does not align with mine. They're regularly in a value judgment, or they're making value judgments that contrast and conflict with mine. And I don't want to allow that influence to come in and potentially move my FI emotions, my FI feelings, or my FI value judgments. Therefore, I must cut that off and push it away, so that I can be true to my own values, my own feelings, and my own emotional flow, basically. Now, if you look at someone who has introverted feeling lower, they're still going to do that same thing, but it will not necessarily, like the ISFP, be the driving force of their life. The ISFP will often take this cutting away to a level that others might not. Others who maybe have FI, but are not as driven by or dedicated to staying true to their own feelings, their own emotions, and their own value judgments. Now, if we move on from the ISFP's introverted feeling to the extroverted sensing, we will see quite a different position. The extroverted sensing is not trying to cut out things in the physical world, but it is rather trying to gather new things in the physical world. So the extroverted sensing always wants to add. It wants to bring in more, and it wants to bring in new. I remember as a child, I was a big collector of things, mostly toys, but I just wanted more. And with extroverted sensing, what will tend to happen is that it will add something new, and it will get a rush off of that adding something new, but that newness wears off very quickly, and so it needs to go out and add more and add more and add more. Extroverted sensing is a cognitive function that truly can never be satiated. It always wants to go out and gather in or add more physical experiences or more literal, tangible physical things. It wants to bring in new sights, new sounds, new smells, new tastes, and new things to touch. It is always looking for more, 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 more. Now, if we contrast that with an introverted sensing is always trying to pare down in the physical world. It's looking more to cut off, and it cuts off the physical. Whereas an SE person gets a rush from getting something new, an SI person will be much more likely to see the value of hanging on to something that has provided benefit over a period of time. I remember that my introverted sensing mother-in-law used to like to shop. However, she almost exclusively tried to shop at thrift shops or secondhand stores. Now, I'm sure part of this was to save money, but also part of it was sort of a recapturing of that physical object from so long ago that provided benefit back then and can provide benefit now. She was bringing new into her home, but it really wasn't new. It was a re-exploration of the old, of the thing that she had known from before. And oftentimes with SI, you'll also see that their physical realm stays very the same. Whereas with SE, it's always wanting to move from the old physical to something new or gather in more. Now, that's not to say that there's not any sense of sentimentality within a person who uses high extroverted sensing. I myself find times whenever I enjoy going to places that I've been, or I enjoy buying more of something that I already have. But that's largely because my introverted feeling has latched on to those things, and they generate good emotions within me. They get my chemicals moving in a way that I like. So my extroverted sensing is going out and saying, okay, we know the introverted feeling likes this. We'll bring in more of it. if we just get more and more and more, then the introverted feeling will constantly get that high off of bringing in the new things that it already knows that it likes. But even then, those things wear out. I remember, when it comes, this is not necessarily a rehashing of something, but I remember in 2001, my wife and I bought a brand new Dodge Caravan. And of course, the sort of endorphin hit, if you will, for the extroverted sensing of taking in all of the new associated with this vehicle, the exploration of the inside of the vehicle and what components it had and what it could do and what it looked like. And I just wanted to sit and stare at this new car for a while. And it was a very huge rush to buy this thing, but that rush wore off so fast. And my extroverted sensing has matured over time, as will most people's, as they realize that the things that provided the rush once upon a time no longer provide it. But furthermore, there is this maturity that comes with looking at something that once provided you a rush and knowing it no longer does. And there is a sense in which the extroverted sensing comes to the realization that that is going to be true all the time. I can go in and I can go experience the new and add more, but it will only last for so long. The introverted feeling in the ISFP really needs to find things beyond just the physical sensory that will provide it with that positive feeling or those good emotions, that it can value things that won't wear out, things like family or things like ideas or having a belief system. These things oftentimes do not wear out as physical things do. Now, if we move on from the extroverted sensing to the introverted intuition in the ISFP, we will find that, again, we move from a extroverted sensing wanting to add to an introverted intuition that wants to cut away. Introverted intuition is always looking to cut away. And what is it cutting away? Well, introverted intuition is very interested in the reality that exists behind the physical. So it's trying to make sense of the physical world and look for patterns or a pattern that will bring it all together and sort of bring it under one roof, make sense of it all. How does this all fit together? Introverted intuition is also looking at going forward. What direction will I go forward in order to bring about a certain end? So introverted intuition is always wanting to cut away different ideas, different possibilities. Introverted intuition looks at, let's start out with just talking about the metaphysical, the reality that exists behind the physical, the unseen world, if you will. There are countless ideas and countless philosophies about what the unseen world is, or what are the patterns or the realities that are existing behind what we can physically experience with our senses. Introverted intuition wants to pare down quickly. It wants to cut away a number of ideas until it can drive down to one idea. Introverted intuition people will be more comfortable saying things like, I am a, and then fill in the blank with some philosophy, right? I am a Stoic. I am an atheist. I am a Christian. I am a Muslim. Whatever it may be, some philosophy, right? I am an agnostic. Introverted intuition is going to feel comfortable saying, okay, I have cut out all of these different possibilities about what is true in the metaphysical world, and now I have settled on one. Now, if we contrast that with extroverted intuition is very much uncomfortable cutting out. It always wants to keep the option open to explore many ideas. High extroverted intuition people are going to feel less comfortable calling themselves any one thing because they want to be free to explore the ideas that exist in the many different philosophical, theological, or religious contexts in our world. They are not going to want to narrow down. Now, introverted intuition not only narrows down on a metaphysical ideology, but it also wants to narrow down on a path. So introverted intuition is a planning function. It's a function that is concerned with What direction am I going to take to move from where I am to the next place that I want to be? Now, having introverted intuition in the third slot for the ISFP causes the ISFP to not focus on this really very heavily. So planning is not a strong spot for the for the ISFP. But what the ISFP will do, to the degree that they are willing to plan, is cut out possibilities. They're not going to necessarily want to consider a multitude of possible futures or a multitude of possible directions that they could take, but rather they're going to want to try to cut off possibilities and pare it down to a very select few different directions that they may go. This can cause the ISFP, I think, in many cases, to seem like they are very singularly focused. And this is a combination, I believe, of their FI and their NI working strongly together. The FI is saying, this is what I value, and so this is what I want more of. And the NI is saying, and there is only one path that we can use to move forward to get more of what we value. And so it will be normal for you to see ISFPs who are very determined or singularly focused. Now, that does not mean that they will always take the necessary steps to get what they want, but at least in their minds, they're very directed and know where they want to go, though they may not have the faintest notion of how to properly get there. Now, if we contrast that singular focus of moving forward in one direction with the extroverted intuition is naturally going to want to keep its options open and consider many possible directions that it may go. Now, for people who have higher introverted intuition, this singular focus or this direction setting may be much stronger, and they may be more committed to sticking with that direction that they set for themselves. Having a third slot introverted intuition may cause the ISFP to be, again, very determined in their desire to go in a certain direction, but not necessarily very motivated to actually take a whole lot of action on it. However, when an ISFP is able to determine to put forth the action necessary to move in the NI direction, then they can become a really unstoppable force. Now, if we look at extroverted thinking, the fourth function, extroverted thinking is always wanting to gather. It's wanting to gather the how does everyone else do this? How does everyone else get this thing done? Extroverted thinking is very free in its desire or in its willingness to go out into the world and look at the ways that different people do things and say, okay, I just need to get this thing done. It's not necessarily the most important thing in the world that I do it in a certain way, or that I even fully understand how it is that I got the thing done. I just need to make sure that I get it done. And so they will be apt to look at how other people do things and say, well, is that the best way? Is this a good way? Will this work? And then just sort of bring in the different ideas, not ideas like abstract, intuitive ideas so much, but practical ideas, pragmatic concepts. How do these people actually physically make the thing work? And then when the ISFP then, or the extroverted thinking in general, is tasked with getting the thing done, then they'll get it done in whichever way seems best to them based on what they saw other people do. It's not particular. Now, if you contrast that with introverted thinking is always cutting away, much like introverted feeling is cutting away the influence that other people have on its emotions and feelings and values. Introverted thinking is cutting away the influence that other people have on thinking. I don't want introverted thinking, might say, my logic to be impacted or affected by the logic of others. I don't want my way of doing things to be impacted or affected by the way other people do things. That's why introverted thinking people will tend to go off by themselves where there's no one else around and work on the thing that they're working on, and then not emerge from that cave, so to speak, until they've finished the thing, because they don't want their logic or their way of doing it to be tainted, if you will, by the way other people think or the way other people do things. Extroverted thinking doesn't have that problem. Extroverted thinking is looking at the task and saying, I just need to get it done. So if there's somebody out there that can help me figure out how to get it done, by golly, let's do it. Now, the problem for the ISFP when it comes to this fourth slot extroverted thinking is that, first of all, they do not prioritize getting the thing done. The ISFP is much more concerned with how do I feel and am I happy and am I in a world that I value than they are concerned with did I actually accomplish anything that provides any benefit to myself or the people around me. ISFPs can be very lax at actually accomplishing really anything oftentimes, unless, again, that FI driver NI combo is so determined that they can overcome that weak or lazy extroverted thinking and move forward and push forward and get the thing done because it's in their introverted feeling box. They're so dedicated to it and so passionate about it that they cannot not get the thing done. Now, extroverted thinking, when it's higher, usually in other people, accomplishes a great deal. It accomplishes many things, and it can work together with others to get the thing done. In the ISFP, the very idea of working together with others is rather scary and difficult. And so in the one sense, the ISFP with their extroverted thinking wants to get the thing done, and they may intellectually know that it would be done better if they teamed up with other people who know what they're doing. But at the same time, there's sort of sometimes a lack of dedication to getting it done at all and a fear of working with others because other people to the ISFP are oftentimes scary. We're much more people who want to try to not be affected by or influenced by or judged by other human beings. So working with them can be very difficult. As you are analyzing a person's behavior, and if you're trying to figure out what is their type, it can be very helpful to ask the question, in any given realm, feeling, thinking, sensing, intuition, is this person adding and gathering more and new, or are they subtracting? Are they cutting away and going into a shell? If you see that someone has to figure out a task and they will not consult anyone else. They don't want anyone's input on how to complete the task. And they want to go off by themselves and try to figure out how to complete the task. That person is probably using introverted thinking, not extroverted thinking. Now, that may not be true because, again, an ISFP with extroverted thinking is going to be hesitant necessarily or sometimes to include others in the process, but not because they are an introverted thinker, but rather because they are just a naturally sort of nomad type of person or loner that doesn't want to be influenced by other people as a general rule. If you notice that someone is always trying to pare down their physical world, they're probably using introverted sensing. But if they're always trying to bring in new, they're probably using extroverted sensing. You know, if you have a friend that's constantly coming to you saying, look, I got a new computer, look, I got a new phone, look, I got new shoes, look, I got new clothes, that's probably extroverted sensing. But if they're always paring down the physical world, then that's introverted sensing. Intuition, if you meet someone who's constantly throwing out new ideas, well, we could do this, we could do this, we could do this, or they don't seem to narrow down on any one metaphysical belief system, like, well, what do you believe about this? And they say, oh, well, I heard this and I read that and I thought, well, this could be true and this is an amazing possibility and so on and so forth. That's probably extroverted intuition. However, if the person more succinctly says, well, this is the direction that I'm going, or this is what I believe, hands down, then that's probably introverted intuition. And as it pertains to the feeling, if you meet somebody who's always out palling around and trying to absorb the emotions of other people, then that's probably extroverted feeling. And if someone goes off by themselves to process their feelings and their emotions alone, that's probably introverted feeling. Extroverted feeling, also, people will be influenced by the value judgments of others. And so you will find them liking the things that everybody likes. Introverted feeling may say, this is what I like. And you might say, well, that was 30 years ago that was popular. I don't care. this is what I like. That's more introverted feeling. Understanding these differences between introverted and extroverted functions can go a long way to help you both understand yourself and understand people. And this is a really important factor in having beneficial relationships with other human beings. Because as you understand why their mind works the way it does, you are far better able to hopefully have compassion and sympathy toward them, but also see where the two of you can align and the two of you differ. And you don't have to turn those differences into arguments if you truly understand one another. I hope that you found this helpful. I know it was long, but I appreciate all of you who watched it till the end. Please do click the like button. Please subscribe if you have not already. And if you are benefiting from this channel and you would be interested into donating interested in donating financially to what I'm doing, there will be a link in the description below where you can do that. Thank you so much and have an awesome day. Bye now.